Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope you guys can hear me well. I want to thank you in advance for joining our conversation about AB84 and just some homeschooling stuff. If you have any homeschooling questions, you can drop them in the comment section. We're going to be joined by Ally, who's actually here, so let's let her in. I think that should have done it. Hopefully. Instagram's a little wonky sometimes. Hey, Allie.
Hey Karen, so happy to see you.
So good to see you. I know we've been communicating so much about AB84. It's
But
nice to
seeing
see
your
you.
face.
Yes. Yes. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm really excited to have you on because you've got so much to share. And I think, I have been friends with you for a while, but actually, when I started homeschooling my daughter, right the time that I was going to start getting serious about homeschooling, I was overwhelmed and didn't know what to do. And I remember listening to one of your podcast episodes, and that just provided so much comfort. I don't think I've ever shared this with you, but it,
I
it
didn't,
just
yeah.
reassured me that I could do this. And if you don't mind sharing what you do and how you support families who are interested in homeschooling or are on a homeschooling journey.
First off, that's the best story ever. I love those stories. I count myself very blessed that I've heard similar things from lots of families. I joke there was a kind of a meme going around that said, "Don't ask me for parenting advice; you might end up homeschooling." And I was like, oops, that's me." Um, so I was homeschooled for high school, and it was so I could travel as a singer. And while I was doing that, my parents, everyone fell in love with it. They brought my siblings home. It just transformed our family. And I was like, okay, all right, I'm going to get my teaching credential and I'm going to take this magic thing that homeschool is. I'm going to bring it into the classroom. I now have 4 credentials. I've taught kinder through high school. And I realized after quite a bit of practice that the system works exactly the way it's supposed to. There really isn't room for the kind of innovation that comes with homeschooling and that instant response that you get in homeschooling, that's reflective of the child. There just isn't room for that, and that's okay. And so I shifted gears and I was like, I'm going to focus on the parents. The parents are the ones who can make the biggest difference, the biggest impact. But from the moment the stick turns pink and we find out we're pregnant, we're given all these messages about how we have to have experts involved, how we can't do it on our own, how we don't have enough of whatever it is. And that's just not the case. Their parents do an incredible job with education. So I have been coaching and consulting with parents for over a decade. I've worked with almost 1,000 families worldwide.
Wow.
I've worked with families in Africa, Australia, and Europe, all over, and all over the United States, lots in California. I love helping families create an education for their children that makes their entire family thrive and is really reflective of who they are and what their values are and what they're passionate about as a family unit. So I've been doing that for a decade. I absolutely love every minute of it. I also now help learning centers and homeschool hybrids build programs that do the same thing, that reflect their communities, that bring parents up and support them, give parents lots of options, and lots of backup so that they feel confident in what they're doing. So I am all over the place with education, but at the end of it, my goal and all of my work goes to really building parents up, giving them the tools and the resources and the confidence to do this and do it really well, because all the data supports that parents do it better.
I love that. Thank you so much, Allie. We're so thankful for you. And I've always said, or my motto is, an empowered parent is a powerful parent because having the
Absolutely.
right tools will really get you and your family where they need to be. Now, I do want to ask, with your expertise and through your perspective, because AB84 is the big talk right now, and how harmful it will be to these options that parents have chosen for their children for flexible education, just other non-traditional education environments that their children are in. In your perspective, Allie, how do you think AB84 will impact families here in California?
it will be heartbreakingly devastating to California. People don't always realize, so every state in the union does education differently, right? We have different laws, different requirements, different options available. In California, we do have one of the most flexible private homeschooling options. It's, one of the least restrictive options in the United States, which is really interesting. But if you want any kind of support, any kind of backup, if your child needs a specific kind of tutor or is really passionate about something and wants to explore it, the only way to get that help is through, or get that backup is through these independent study or non-classroom based charters. It's literally the only option we have in California. And there are hundreds of thousands of students who thrive in that option. Not only that, there is an entire industry of businesses that
Mm.
are built around supporting these families through this option. So AB84, even as they make these minor adjustments to it, the bulk of the bill, the intention of the bill, the way the bill is written, is to completely remove this option. And if you remove this option, the only thing that families have is to privately homeschool, which there's nothing wrong with private homeschooling. I think it's a great option. But if you need any kind of support at all, you are on your own. And I think it's just it's such a detriment to our students, to our kids, when a parent is reaching for support, there's an option for them and they're going to take it away. And I mean, I have opinions as to why they're doing that, but this would really, it would make it so that the only place you could go is your local neighborhood school or privately homeschooling. There's private schools in the mix there, but many of them are very similar now, to the local neighborhood government school. They also are extremely expensive, depending on where you are in California. So you really are tying parents' hands and removing this option that helps families to thrive. It's a disaster, and a lot of businesses would be shut down. And the thing is, the businesses that would be shut down serve more than our kids, more than the kids who are in charters. These businesses are staples in their communities. They serve kids after school and on weekends, but a huge chunk of their business, and a way they stay afloat and support themselves, is through supporting families like ours who are part of charters who use this alternative method of education. So you're going to lose all of these community hubs throughout the state as well and kill small business. This is a devastating bill.
Yes, absolutely, Ally. And I said it myself personally through my personal testimony. We're a charter school family. My daughter is thriving. She is doing so great. But there are stories like that all throughout California. And I think
Mhm.
one of the things I do want to get into is why flexible learning is so important in California, because we have children who, for example, are in low income areas, or students who have been bullied. I feel like there was one assembly member that brought this up. There are students who have been bullied in regular, traditional school environments, or who are in IEPs, just different situations. If you can talk a little bit on why flexible learning in California is really important for our children to thrive.
Uh, okay, this one I hear stories every day. Um, and it is such a complex situation, but again, going back to how our options are very limited, the charters are the bridge in between, right? They're the in between place. And the government schools are really designed to serve the middle of the road, right? Like, if you fit in this box, in this path, you learn this way, you make friends this way, you have health that works this way, then it might serve you. But if you fall in any other side of the bell curve, even just slightly, it can be devastating to be a part of these programs, these government schools. There's kiddos with, unfortunately, we live in an age where a lot of our kids are sick, very sick. and have really serious health issues that being in a classroom is just not conducive to. Kids with extreme diabetes or epilepsy. I mean, there's so many. I've met kids all over the place, but they have health issues that make being in the classroom extremely difficult. And those parents are already doing a lot. They're filtering a lot, and having this in between space where they can get some support while letting their child thrive and learn the way they need to is a blessing. Unfortunately, bullying is a massive issue right now. And with the incessant noise that comes with social media and just the way children are interacting now, they can't get away from it. And this again offers another solution, another place where kids can find their home. Because there's this theory called the lowering the affective filter. Learning is a biological process. It's a thing, there's actually a system in your brain that happens. And in order to learn, you have to have the affective filter lowered. That means that all of your basic needs must be met, right? Are you like, think about just as adults, if you're starving or you didn't sleep at all last night and you go or you feel like somebody's about to burst through the door and something crazy is about to happen, right? If those things are happening and you're sitting in a class, how much are you learning? Nothing. You're learning nothing because it's not how our brains are designed. We actually know how we learn. And so if your basic Maslow's hierarchy of needs are not being met, you cannot learn. And unfortunately, these kiddos with health issues, these kids struggling with bullying, kids who learn differently, kids who are in the special education department are grossly underserved. And you literally can't learn. Your brain can't do that if it doesn't have those basic needs met. So having this alternative, having this flexible option is extremely crucial because we don't have anything else that's serving these kids. And every year we have more and more of these kids who are falling on the outsides of the bell curve and who deserve to have the opportunity to learn, to have their basic needs met, and then get to explore and grow. But their basic needs cannot be met in the alternative environment. So to just remove any alternative is really sentencing these kids to not learning and not getting what they need. And that's wrong.
Absolutely. And there are so many reasons. There's so much harmful language in this bill that we could not even get through it in 1 hour, 2 hours. It's going to take, I think, so much time. But I do want to talk about where the bill is at right now. So as you mentioned earlier, there were some minor changes. When I got the notification of amendments in my email, I ran to the bill and I said, okay, we're moving forward. Something's happening. And then I read the amendments and I was like,
Nothing
what?
happened.
Nothing happened.
Yeah.
So right now, as the bill stands, recently amended as of a few days ago, still strong opposition for AB 84 because those amendments do not address any of the concerns coming from key opposing organizations and, of course, advocates like yourself, myself, and everybody that, is concerned with the bill. The hearing is on Wednesdays, July 16th, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It'll be heard in the Senate Education Committee beginning at 9 a.m. There's a very important deadline today at noon for opposition letters. So if you haven't gotten your opposition letter in, today at noon is the deadline. I do have a quick how-to video if you need that. But Ally, can you give us some talking points of what people can add into their letter? Because I do want to just give a little an idea of those who haven't been up to hearing what can happen on Wednesday. So there's going to be basically, probably, I anticipate, no sitting space in the hearing room. So what happens is everybody's probably standing outside. They have screens where you can watch the hearing. And when it comes to opposition, and they do this for support, everybody comes that's there for opposition comes to the microphone, and all you're allowed to say is, my name is Karen Amagon, I'm the executive director of Senate of California, and I oppose this bill. You can't really say nothing else. So really taking the opportunity right now to call the Senate Education Committee members or your own senator and letting them know how this will affect you or your child, or just simply we ask you to vote no. But Ally, if you can give us a little bit of what can be included in those opposition letters for those individuals who still haven't submitted their letters.
Yeah. First off, the letters do matter, guys. I want to
Yes.
make that really, really clear. I think sometimes we get asked these, it takes so long for these bills to go through that it can feel like, well, I already sent a letter. Well, I already did that. Nothing happened. But every stage, every letter, every phone call, every text at every stage has weight and matters. So please don't get fatigued. Please do it. Karen's done an incredible job of talking you through it. So please, please, please. That's number one. Number two, if you're going up to to Sacramento, bring water, lots of water.
Yes, and
Um,
snacks, and snacks.
and snacks. But as far as what to put in the bill, one of the big problems we're facing is that this model of education doesn't make sense to a lot of people. They have no frame of context. It's the equivalent I'm trying to think, it's like someone on Mars trying to, like if somebody lived on Mars trying to explain going to the beach here. Like it's just, they don't have a frame of context. So some things to really focus on would be your child's story. So, the ways that your child thrives in this program and what they would lose, your individual child would lose as a part of this program being taken away. That those personal stories, we get a lot of feedback from legislators that the personal stories of their constituents weigh very heavily for them. So share. If you can't think of something, look at it this way, like think of how your child learns best. Think about, I had one family I worked with years ago where just getting up, this is going to sound silly, but it does make a huge difference. Getting up in the morning, and getting her daughter to school, they were all night people. They were not morning people. And they were fighting, they were bickering. Their house was a disaster. Everybody was miserable. And just choosing to go with a charter, they alleviated that stress. Their child started learning to read right away. Everybody was like thriving and happy. So no thing, big or small. It doesn't have to be my child is epileptic and couldn't, it doesn't have to be this big thing. Just the individual story of how your child has benefited from this opportunity. Maybe they took an art class that finally made them come out of their shell and start talking to people and making friends. Any of these things, personal stories about your child's experience really matter. Another thing that can be really helpful is personal stories about you with your teacher, your ES, your EF, whatever they're called, and how they have supported you. Because those teachers work really hard. They love on their families. They try to be there to support. So examples of that too. Those kinds of things can help paint a picture of what is unique in this relationship and in this model because they don't understand. The legislators do not understand. And so they're trying to hear us and they're going to the bill author and they're saying, my parents are concerned about this. And because they don't really understand, they're getting told that it's all taken care of when it's not. So we need them to really see the value and see how children and parents and families would be affected by this bill. So I really would stick with those personal stories. I think those are the most impactful. Would you agree, Karen?
I would absolutely agree. And like you said, our legislators, and we can have our own personal opinions, but our legislators love to hear stories that their constituents bring forward because at the end of the day, they're there to represent us and our families and are there to listen to us. And if you are calling and you speak to a staffer, don't be discouraged because many of the times we can feel, oh my gosh, I didn't get to speak to the legislator or the senator or the assembly person. But just know that their staffers are like the gatekeepers for the assembly member or senator. They are there to download the legislator on what you have to say or what your letter says, and all of the good things. I do want to ask Ally because again, you just have a way of making things feel so comfortable and so positive, and I'm ready to take action. I do want to ask, what would you say to families who feel powerless right now or who are feeling a little discouraged because of a bill like AB 84?
Especially if this is your first time tracking legislation in the state of California, your first time seeing legislation against charters. Um, it is disheartening. It is discouraging because A, it's a really long process, and B, you don't get instant feedback. And so I first just want to acknowledge that it is as discouraging, like it is. A lot of stuff is happening behind closed doors. A lot of, it's just a long time and it can feel really, really heavy. Um, I think one thing I want you to know, so I actually graduated from one of the very first non-classroom based charters. That's where I got my high school diploma. So I was homeschooled and through a charter for high school, and I'm one of the very first graduates from one of these programs, and I can tell you that from their inception, which was not that long ago, guys. It really, I mean, I'm not going to give away my age here, but like it's not. They haven't been around that long. I'm young, it's good. But they haven't been around that long. And from their inception, we have dealt with and battled and followed legislation to curtail their existence, basically from inception. So this is not the first time. Now, I will say this is by far one of the largest and would be most devastating bills for these non-classroom based charters. So I don't want to take away from the weight of that. But it's not the first time that we've been here. And there is a process, even if it feels very um, behind closed cloak and dagger behind closed doors, like everyone's against you. There is a process,
Mm-hmm.
and your voices are going to get logged. It's there, and there are windows to success here. Like there are paths to success to kill this bill. So please, even when you're feeling really discouraged and hopeless, try so hard not to give into that. Recognize that um, in a way, that is one of the things that keeps us from speaking up and makes it easy for things to happen that we don't want to have happen. So we really can't give into that feeling and know we've been here before. There's a process. We've got a couple more places where we could stop this bill. Just keep showing up, keep showing up. The other thing, too, is we have to remember that the legislators are not all working against us. I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when you have been on this side and the stakes are so high. I know how many families deeply rely on these charter options. And it is terrifying to consider what life would be like or how you would manage without it. I understand that. And we could talk all about that if we need to. I hope we don't. Um, but the legislators are not working against you. They're not actively working against you. They do want to, in general, as a general rule, they want to voice your concerns. So when you're talking to them, stick to your stories about how it served you. Try to let the upset stay in another room for that moment, and just keep showing up, keep making the phone calls, keep sending the letters. They do count. All of them count. We can't see it right now, but they do count. And if you can show up. There are several organizations arranging meetings with parents, with legislators. There's a lot of stuff going on. So if you can show up, but the feeling's real. We've all felt it before. We just have to set it aside and keep going through this process and keep showing up and keep showing up as positively as we can, sharing our children's stories and how valuable this program is.
Yes, thank you so much, Allie. And you summed that up so perfectly. And I just want to remind those of you who are just joining or just to go back some simple steps. And you don't have to do all of them. You can do what works for you. Because, like Allie said, there are different ways to take action, and we will continue to put post or remind you of ways that you can take action. But you can, one, make those phone calls. You don't have to go anywhere. You can do it at the comfort of your own home. You can make the phone calls right now to your Senate Education Committee members or your senator.
Mhm.
Number two, you can submit your letter of opposition. Again, the deadline is today at noon, and I'll be open. So if you have any questions, you can DM them. I will share that little how-to video that I did as well. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. And then right now, the other option is to head to the Senate Education Committee hearing on Wednesday. Now, I know, like Ally said, if you can show up, show up. I've done the trip. I've driven out to Sacramento, so I can completely understand if you can't. But if you can be there, just be prepared to have your water, have your snacks, because it could go on for a while, and be there to just say, I'm in opposition of this bill.
Mhm.
Oh, we have a question. Hey, Educate Advocate, can you give an overview of the egregious points of the bill that can connect to personal stories, and if you can include points pertaining to students on an IEP?
Okay, so did you want to take that, Karen, or?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So one of the biggest parts of this bill is that so everyone needs to understand that charters, all charters, whether they're brick and mortar, non-classroom based, all charters already receive between 25 and 30% less funding than their other public school counterparts. So they already have less funding. And on top of that, they already have higher overhead. They have to pay for their own buildings. They have to have, they're paying for a governing board. They're paying for things that the other schools that already have that 25 to 30% higher um, per pupil spending don't have to cover. This bill then goes and adds more things that will have to be paid for. Now, they have pulled back. There was one piece that they pulled back on as far as like districts being able to decide what they were going to charge them. But they've put in new requirements for audits and a bunch of other things that are going to be very costly to the charters themselves. So you've got less funding to start with, higher overhead to start with. Now they're adding more overhead, more things, more like a percentage has to go to a certain amount of teachers. Like they're really curtailing how much there is to spend with funds. And with the model of this education, the funds need to be going to the students. And so if that money gets all eaten up, it really the entire program kind of ceases to exist as we know it. So that's one major piece. Another piece is access to vendors. So, especially with a kiddo. So I have a kiddo who, well, I'll talk about another kiddo. There, kiddos who might not be getting exactly what they need through IEP services, but they find a tutor that works really well for them. And that tutor is finally able to support them, give them whatever kind of teaching that they need to work through their learning challenges. If that person is not credentialed or potentially hired with the school, that child will lose access to that person, assuming they even have funding to cover that anymore to start with. So those are just a couple. There's so much more. Um, but I would say, especially related to IEPs, is that there isn't going to be much money left for the kids. And I think that is a huge issue. The other thing is that many kids with IEPs thrive in this environment. And so if they're choked off to the point where they can't function anymore, and then this entire schooling option where so many kids with IEPs thrive will collapse. And that's a huge problem.
If you guys have any other questions, you can feel free to drop them in the comments. But I I cannot believe that this is where we're at right now. And, like you said, it could be very disheartening because there are so many children, so many of our children that are thriving off, the services. Just this, um, you're welcome, Educate Advocate. So thankful that you're here. Just a side note, if you guys do have any questions about IEPs or, you have a child with exceptional needs, Educate Advocate is I say this all the time, they are the California organization for your family and your children, because they are absolutely amazing. I've seen them do work and they are absolutely amazing. I
I
lost my
send
train of thought of
families
where
to
I was
them all
going.
the time. Yeah, I send families there all the time, and I know beyond a shadow of a doubt they'll be taken care of, and I love that.
Yes, absolutely. Um, so thank you so much. If you guys have any AB84 questions, drop them in the comments. I do want to shift gears a little bit more, just to ask you one or two, a few questions about families who want to homeschool, but they might not be ready or they might be feeling overwhelmed. What would you say the first step is for a family who wants to do it, but they're just feeling a little overwhelmed right now?
Oh, okay. So I think the very first, you guys, there's so much, and for the first thing is don't do a Google search. That's number one. No Google searches. Don't search Google. Don't join a Facebook group. Don't start there. Please don't start there. Um, One of the coolest things and the biggest blessings of the last 10 years has been that homeschool has exploded, which means options have exploded. And we love that. That's fabulous. But when you are getting started right away, like when you're first putting your toe in the water, and you're coming from a system where they told you exactly what to do, into it's literally, I always say, it's like going from your bathtub to the middle of the ocean. It's not necessarily bad, but it's quite different. Like if you were in your warm, cozy bathtub and now you're in the middle of the ocean, it's very overwhelming. So, first thing, don't go to the ocean, right? Recognize that. The other thing too is it's overwhelming for everybody, and that's okay. So the first thing I always have families do is have a conversation together as a family and talk about what you would want it to look like together. What would be your goals? What do you guys want? Not in the, okay, I'm going to look at what homeschooling is and I'm going to say, what's the best writing curriculum? What's the best schedule? What's the best this? And then try to fit your family into it. I can say with absolute certainty that that will not be successful, that you will have much more pain, and frustration in that process. You really need to start with what it is that you guys want, because you're in the wide ocean now. You literally get to decide. Do you want slow mornings? Do you want to be able to work in the morning and really go to town on school in the afternoons? Do you want to be able to travel? All of those things, are really, those should be the foundation of your homeschool. So having a family discussion, having a discussion, if you have a partner, having a discussion with your partner about what it is you want out of your children's education and what you want out of your parenthood. Because really, you guys, we get one chance at this too, and we should be able to enjoy it and love it. And our kids should be able to enjoy and love it. We always talk about their childhoods, but
Mhm.
really, everyone should get to thrive. So the most important thing is not to go outside first, but to go inside first, and really, really think about what it is. If there were no rules, because we'll figure out the rules later. You can totally do the rules later. You'll be fine. But figure out what it is you want, because then when you start looking out and figuring out how you're going to do that, you're going to have a lens to search by. Because if you as a family are going to go start traveling, you're not going to want to choose something that requires a stack of 40 books, right? Like it's going to alter how you choose, what's out there, because every single one of the curricula that are out there, maybe not everyone, but like 99.9% is perfect for a family. There's a family that it was perfect for. It doesn't mean it's for you. So you got to really spend time together as a family talking through what you want life to be like and what you want learning to be like. Once you have a really clear picture, then start looking out and pulling resources, pulling what you need to make that vision a reality.
Love that. And that what is what excites me. And I'm so passionate about homeschool because, like you said, you can really map it out to what fits best for your family. And my daughter loves to sleep in. Like she does not like to wake up early in the mornings. And that's what works for her. And I get my work done. So many of you all know that I'm a single mom and I homeschool. And this is why I say you can do it. But you do have to map it out to what's going to be best for yourself and for your family, and also give yourself grace, because it's
Mhm.
okay to say something's not going to work out. I'm going to go back to the drawing board and maybe revisit that conversation and shift things around. And that's the beauty about homeschool. And I think that's where I'm just so happy and thankful that we discovered, we discovered homeschooling because it's been working for my daughter, for my family, and for myself as well. So there's beauty in chaos, as I like to say it sometimes, until you figure out what's going to work best. We've been at it for like 3 years, and we're finally, I think, at a place where like, okay, this is what works for us. This is what's going to stick. And, seasons change as well. So that's why I always like to remind everybody it's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be what works for your family. And that's
Well,
what's beautiful.
and remember that nowhere is perfect. No,
Yes.
nobody finishes. If you're in the most elite private school, they don't finish all of the curriculum. They switch things around. So don't hold yourself to a higher standard than other people do. And remember that families who didn't have access to a quarter of what you have access to now homeschooling from 30, 40 years ago, their children have been outperforming that entire time. Rest in what it is that your family needs and desires for your life, and then feedback. It's that direct. It's the connection with your child and the feedback of figuring out like, oh, this is really working for you. We're going to keep going. Oh, that's not working for you. We're going to figure something else out. That's where the magic comes in. It's not in the perfect curriculum or the perfect schedule or the perfect days back to back. It is in the responsiveness and the relationship.
I love that. I do have one more question to wrap up. And again, for those of you that are just joining us, if you have any questions about AB84, we covered so much um, great talking points, great information. This life will be safe, so you can go back and listen to that portion. But if you have any questions about AB84 or homeschooling in California, feel free to drop them in the comments. I do have one more question for you. And you did mention you've worked with thousands of families nationwide, and I think you said throughout the world, which is
Hmm?
absolutely amazing. Congratulations, Ally.
Okay.
What would you say your favorite success story is, or any story that really comes to mind when you think about the work that you've done helping so many amazing families?
My favorite. That is, I don't know about my favorite. Um, anyone who's been a teacher could probably relate to this, but you remember every single one of the children, right? Almost like they're your
Yeah.
own. Like I, I like so many faces and names are going through my head. But what I'll say is, there's kind of a thread in all of my favorite stories. And the thread is, we live in a world right now where families are disconnected from the moment they're created. Um, like there are so many forces working to pull families apart. And there are these big chasms that can happen between parent and child or siblings, like just
Mm.
chasms where they don't really know each other. They're not super comfortable around one another. They may fight a lot. And usually that correlates to not thriving in some way. Maybe, a child who is really, really shy or doesn't believe in themselves, isn't willing to try new things because they don't want to get it, not perfect. Um, and my favorite stories, the stories that keep me doing this work, are the ones where families find their way back to each other and they start thriving. I can think of a dozen children right now where like the light came back to their eyes, right? Where um, and when the light in your child's eyes come back, the light that comes from those parents' hearts, it's just a whole nother beast, a whole nother animal. Um, those are the stories that I treasure and cherish the most, because every single family matters, every single child matters. And when parents are given the right tools, when they have the opportunity to see what's possible for them, for their child, for their family, and then get the support to get there, the most beautiful things happen. The most beautiful things. I've had kids who, had flunked out of everything go to D1 top universities. That's not right for
Wow.
everybody, but like I've had that
Yeah.
happen. I've had kids who really, I had one kiddo really, really horrible bullying situation, ended up creating a 7-figure business and a mastermind for other kids,
Wow.
and has a whole community. Kids who've created charities. I had a child who had cancer multiple times, and she's still fighting, and she's just the most incredible human. And she started a charity to decorate kids' hospital rooms at Christmas time and fill them with Christmas lights. The amount of potential that exists in every single child when they're held and they're cared for, and like in a family that has space to connect and be there and make room for their passions and interests and help them to see that they are valuable and important members of their family. It's I can't even. I mean, the stories are endless. And it makes me very grateful and feel very honored to do the work I do.
You are absolutely amazing. You're a light in this world. I'm just going to say that. I've got chills, and you are absolutely amazing. And thank you for everything you do for our families. I do want to let people know who are joining us where they can find you and how they can get in contact with you. Because if you're not already following Ally, what are you doing? Like, she is absolutely amazing.
Oh, you're the best, Karen. You can find me at Ally Adair Chung on Instagram. Send me a DM. I'm in my DMs and happy to answer questions and support any way I can. There's a podcast you can go that Karen had mentioned. Lots of free resources there, lots of tools, and lots of lives where I've helped families do everything they need to do to get started in homeschooling, or troubleshoot the things that come up. So please take advantage of that. Take whatever you need, and let me know if I can help.
You're amazing, Allie. Thank you so much for spending the morning with us, you guys. If you do have any questions, you can always reach out to Allie or myself. Just a reminder, today is a deadline for those opposition letters on AB84 at noon. So we've got about like an hour and 15 minutes if you haven't already drafted it and sent it. Thank you guys also for every single action you've taken on AB84. This is an all hands on deck for our children, for their education. As you heard Allie said, our children need these options for them to thrive and for them to learn and for them to just be great humans. And that's all we want, for them to have that opportunity to have these options. So thank you guys. I hope you have a wonderful Friday, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, Karen. Get those letters in.
Yes, get those letters in. Bye, Allie.
Bye.